It was a chilly night in early March, a couple of years ago. I had just gotten home from a late shift at work, dragging myself through the door close to midnight. Exhausted, didn't even begin to cover it. All I wanted was to crack open an ice-cold beer and sink into the couch. That's exactly what I did. There's something about alcohol after a long day, it hits differently. I didn't even bother turning on the TV right away. Instead, I sat there with my eyes closed, feet up, letting the silence wash over me. My mind buzzed with thoughts of work stress, family, and everything else piling up in my life. After a few minutes of pointless channel surfing, I gave up. Nothing was worth watching. I figured I'd enjoy my beer in peace. But peace and quiet? That's apparently too much to ask for. Not 10 seconds later, every light in the house blinked out. You know that faint, static-like pop right before a power cut. I hate that sound. Our house had a habit of losing power randomly, and this time was no different, or so I thought. Annoyed, I stepped outside to see if the blackout extended to the neighbors. As I shut the door behind me, I noticed one house down the street still had lights on. Great, I thought, it's just us. With a sigh, I turned back to head inside and check the breaker. That's when I realized the front door wouldn't budge. Locked. I jiggled the handle, baffled. My wife was home, but surely she wouldn't lock me out. I knocked loudly and called her name. No response. I tried peering through the window, still pitch black. Panic set in. I ran around to the back door. Also locked. That was odd. My wife rarely locked both doors. Something wasn't right. Then I saw it. The garden hose, which I knew had been neatly coiled earlier, was sprawled out on the grass near the breaker box. My heart dropped. Someone had cut the power on purpose. Without thinking, I bolted to the nearest window and squinted into the dark. This time, I caught sight of two beams of light bouncing wildly inside. Flashlights. They weren't just rummaging, they were stealing. Rage boiled inside me. The audacity of breaking into my house while I was home. I reached for my phone, only to realize I'd left it on the couch. Perfect. I cursed under my breath and decided to run to the neighbor's house for help. But as I started toward the sidewalk, a more chilling thought stopped me cold. My wife was still inside, asleep and vulnerable. I couldn't leave her. Sprinting back, I grabbed a handful of rocks from the yard and started pelting them at our bedroom window. After the third hit, the window creaked open, and my wife's startled face appeared. "Hide in the closet," I whispered urgently. She didn't ask questions, she disappeared immediately. Satisfied she'd be safe for now, I dashed to the neighbor's house and hammered on their door. They opened up, and I breathlessly explained the situation. They handed me their phone, and I dialed 911. As we waited for the police, I stood on their porch, praying my wife would stay hidden and the intruders wouldn't find her. The cops arrived quickly, and I led them to the house. They stormed in, but it was too late. The back door was wide open, and the intruders had fled, taking more valuables than I could count. My wife was shaken, far more than I was. And then she told me something that sent a chill through my spine. Moments after I had warned her, she heard someone kick open the bedroom door. They didn't say a word. Instead, they stood there, listening. Then came the metallic click of a gun being cocked. She stayed perfectly still, hidden in the closet, barely daring to breathe. After a few tense seconds, the intruder left the room. I can only assume they heard the rocks I'd thrown and panicked. Even now, years later, I can't shake the guilt. What if I hadn't stepped outside? What if I hadn't warned her in time? We still live in that house, though, and we have no plans to move. But every so often, I think about that night and how different things could have turned out.